Hi, I'm Troy.
And I'm Linda, and we are Wines, Pines, and Canines. So Troy and I have been on a 1-month trip to the Northeast, and it has been a mix of campgrounds, boondockers welcome, harvest hosts, mooch docking, and those typical overnight stays at Cracker Barrels and Cabela's.
And for those of you that do this kind of thing, there's the eternal question, where do I find places to drop my tanks? Today, we're going to talk about how we find these places,
as well as where we fill up with fresh water, and there's some questions that we need to be asking in the future. Now, before we started on this trip, I went ahead and did some research as to where I could find places to empty the tanks. And we found 3 helpful websites. One is rvshare.com, one is rvdumps.com, and then the one we typically use, which is santadumps.com. And it does have places listed in Canada and Mexico if you're traveling across the borders as well.
Yeah, and in addition to that, there's sometimes you need to do a little investigating. Sometimes it's real important to find out more about the location than specifically just where it is.
So let's take a look at that. So, one of the downsides of boondocking is you have to find some place to empty your tanks. We were looking for a place on our way from outside of Burlington, Vermont, heading down towards Hartford, Connecticut. Found this, the Little River State Park, and it is a beautiful park, but it is 3.5 miles off the interstate. Didn't seem like a big deal, except it's pretty much unpaved roads. So it took us a little while to get here. It was a little bumpy. Hopefully in the future, we plan a little better.
So yeah, if we're doing this again and it's not right next to a major interstate or something like that, we're definitely going to scope this out on Google Earth.
But state parks remain a great option to go ahead and empty those tanks.
Yeah, prices can vary as well. In Vermont, it was $17. In New York State, it was only $8.
But another drawback was in Watkins Glen, we went ahead and pulled into a city memorial park, and they just had us pull into a spot that was empty. Unfortunately, there was some damage to the equipment.
Yeah, somebody had obviously backed over the sanitary connection. It was pretty crushed. I could make it work by holding my foot down on the sanitary line, but it worked.
Yeah, so those are just a few other things to be careful of. Another place that we have used in the past are the Pilot or Flying J truck stops in North Carolina, but the few times that we have used those, they can get pretty backed up.
Yeah, and even worse, sometimes at a national park like Shenandoah National Park, we had to wait for 3 or 4 people to do their thing, and it was 45 minutes we didn't plan for.
I think our favorite place so far, though, to empty our tanks is
Cabela's. Now, these Cabela's locations vary greatly, I'm sure, but in every place that we've been, they're located very close to a highway, they're very level, they're paved because they're part of the parking area. So they have the dump station, it's well laid out, it's easy to approach, easy to park in, and after you get done, oftentimes you can sleep at many of these locations.
And that was a great benefit for us. We were there earlier in the day to empty our tanks, and just to let you know, it's like $5.
Yeah.
And then we had to go to a family party, which meant we had to take the camper with us because Desi had to hang out in the parking lot. So by the time we got done with that, it was dark and it was late. There was no place to go, so we went back to that Cabela's for the night. We always call ahead and make sure with the manager that it is okay to spend the night at one of these overnight parking lots. Even though we got the okay, the next morning we woke up to this sign. But we had no trouble.
Now, we have heard that many of the Cabela's locations are starting to close down their RV dump stations. Apparently, they're difficult to maintain for a number of reasons. So hopefully that isn't all of them, but we have heard that's something to think about.
And that brings us to our last point. If you are boondocking and you are looking for a place to empty your tanks, I would go ahead and call ahead of time. Make sure that they're still open. Make sure that there's nothing wrong with the equipment and that you can go ahead and do it. Last thing you want to do is drive an hour out of your way to find out you're going to have to start searching again. So those are the sometimes challenges of boondocking. When looking for a place to empty the tanks, you want to make sure it's close to you or at least close to a highway.
Right.
You know, kind of some of those facilities may be a little worse for wear, and you may just have to wait in line for a while.
Over the next couple weeks, you're going to see a series of videos of where we harvest, host, hopped our way around the Finger Lakes.
And we're going to be talking about the GeoPro and how it did on this 1 month trip. And we finally have a new battery setup, and we're going to be talking about that in the upcoming videos.
So if you'd like to see more, please
like and subscribe. And remember, Desi wants you to hit that notification bell.
In just a few moments, I'm going to show you guys a new gadget from Amazon. But before I do, I just want to take a second to thank you for all of your feedback, all of the comments we're getting from the viewers and the subscribers. So today, if you would, give us all of your crazy stories from the road and all the places that you have found to empty those tanks in the comments below. Today's product is called the Water Bandit. The Water Bandit is going to help you get over that common problem when you're trying to dump your holding tanks or take on fresh water and the threads at the existing hoses at these locations are damaged. For the purposes of this video, let's assume that my hose has really bad threads and you couldn't get your hose connected to it. That's where this device comes in. Just insert it and then thread your hose to this device and you're back in business. A common problem is sometimes you have a length of hose that's really just severed at the end. There's no threads at all. We've read that some people are using this device to slide over the ends of it, getting two zip ties to cinch it down to get them back in business to take care of things. Also, obviously you have a fresh water intake and you also have a black water flush. So for that reasons of contamination, I'd have two of these. And we're going to leave a link down below.